I'm Adrian Rose.
I am Kane Roselle.
And I'm the art.
And I am the science
of transformation.
And we are Coast to Coach.
Hello, everybody. I am Adrian Rose, and I am the art.
And my name is Kane Roselle. I am the science of transformation. And this week we have Mr. Nate Reit on our podcast. Welcome.
Thanks so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys. Thanks, Kane and Adrian, for having me.
Thank you. This is really, really great. So tell the audience who don't know who you are a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. So I am a transformational life coach. I am certified through the Brave Thinking Institute. Kane, you and I, we actually graduated together under Mary Morrissey, and I help people create more of a life that they love living. And particularly, I'm originally a musician, and so I am particularly passionate about serving the musical community and millennials, folks in their 20s and 30s, to understand their own real true inner power and taking that back and co-creating their life and making it one that they love, instead of reacting to the circumstances of life, which at this particular moment is easy to do. Many folks are in that position.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So do you find that you're talking a lot with musicians who are struggling in that kind of a capacity?
Certainly, certainly at this time, there's a lot of, particularly musicians or people who do, so many people are out of work and that sort of thing. Musicians, so many of them rely on live performance up until now. And seeing as that's not something that's happening, there's been a lot of uncertainty and shifting and worries about when's that going to come back and what am I going to do in the meantime. So that's certainly a group that's been impacted, particularly in that area. And, then also not, a very social group tend to be musicians. So there's a lot more time for introspection and looking at, things that maybe haven't been looked at for a long time. A lot of people on their own.
I know I've noticed on my Facebook, I'm also a musician, so I'm in that community. I'm not in the live performing community for musicians, but I come from that world. And a lot of my friends are all doing like Patreons and Facebook Lives and things like that, so people can go ahead and donate money if they want to, but they'll play for like 2 or 3 hours. I actually have a friend who must own the owner of a local bar here, and they let him actually go down and do his live set on Facebook Live at their bar so people could feel like they were out.
Cool. I love that. That's great. And absolutely, there's a lot of that is, Patreon and people doing live sets online and a lot of creativity. There's a lot of other things people have been, looking, how can I connect? What can I do? Which is, those are the kinds of questions that we want to be asking. And certainly there has been a lot of love and support and ideas coming from the musical community and in large from a lot of people. And also there's a good portion of people who aren't quite sure what to do or are still stuck in a little bit of, resistance to what's going on and not knowing how to move forward.
Sure. Well, thank you, Nate, for helping, that wonderful group of people. And I love that you and Kane are both musicians. I personally am not, although I love music. I believe nothing touches the soul like music, and nothing raises our vibration either like music. How would you, so people don't really understand vibration, so many people don't, do you get into vibration? How would you explain vibration?
Yeah. So, just in general, most people don't recognize how much more powerful we are than our circumstances and how connected we are to how we're really at the center of everything that's happening in our life. And we're swimming in a sea of vibration. Everything is vibrating, and the smallest subatomic particles and quarks or little vibrating strings and filaments. We're living in a world of vibration. Or is it Bob Proctor that says ocean of motion? So we're, our thoughts have vibration. We have a vibration to us, and we're uh, based on what what we're thinking and how we're feeling. We're kind of existing on a certain frequency of vibration that leads to feelings and actions, and is a point of attraction for things occurring in our life. Um, so having a conscious awareness that we're actually part of something larger, there's actually an intelligence that's encoded into the every particle of the universe. And when we recognize that fact, that actually we're creating our life from the inside out, it's not outside in things that are happening to us, then we can begin to take more control back and power back, and actually creating what we want and moving forward, instead of feeling like life's happening to us. It's not happening to us. It's actually happening for us.
And it would seem that in every kind of community, it's almost like just going through life, I would see folks acting from a point of life is happening to me, and certainly with what's been going on, I've noticed on the positive side, a lot of folks have been waking up. I just talked to a gentleman this morning, and, he said, never have I ever had so much time on my hands. And I've been doing this research on the mind, and, starting to piece together things that I've been through and things that I'm going through and thinking and all that. And people are really taking advantage of this. Not everybody,
Yeah.
but many people are really taking advantage of this. It's really a pretty sweet deal. And I know that in the musician community, it can certainly be taxing, because a lot of those folks, for example, aren't making the kind of money that they want to be making. We've heard the term starving artist. It's also musicians.
Yeah.
And, when they have something like this is your opportunity, I would say. Musicians are typically very creative. I mean, you've got some that are perhaps more structured and listen to only classical music or whatever, so it's very regimented, right? But certainly there's a lot of creativity in that world, and now's the time, wouldn't you say, to pivot?
Absolutely. And across all genres, classical music and included, absolutely now is the time to pivot. And like I was saying, life isn't happening to us, it's happening for us, which I remember the first time I heard that was, I think it was a graduation speech that Jim Carrey had delivered, and it was kind of one of those things that sounded good, but it didn't make sense to me right away, because it's like, well, what about all of the things that I didn't want, all of the the suffering in the world, or things that didn't work out for me, or what about all of the all of the times that it seems like I didn't, this is happening to me, I didn't sign up for this, or whatever. And when we recognize that life is the very purpose of life is for us to grow, and when we're faced with challenges or things that we don't prefer, and things that are kind of throwing us off track as a musician, or whoever you are in the world, there's a tremendous opportunity to grow. And it was really kind of putting pressure on and lighting up some things that maybe in your life weren't what you really wanted. Particularly, if you're a musician and you're not you're not making the income that you would love, you're not, maybe there are some creative projects that you haven't started, or you've gotten sidetracked with your vision for your life, or for yourself, or creatively, or maybe there's some other elements, health and well-being, or relationships that have been, that now all of a sudden there's all this time to really think about that, and are really faced with, now there's even more pressure on my career and my life. What do I do with that? And if we looking at that as, this is the time, there's an opportunity here to start really thinking about who do I really want to be creatively? Is there a project that I hadn't started? Is there now's the time to do something like start a Patreon page, or a YouTube, or write the piece, organize the project, start the book, whatever it may be, and begin to think differently about kind of, there's a big interruption in the normal flow of life, and whenever that happens, there is that tremendous opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. It's very, very true. So in the, everything happens for us. I'm just curious, was there a moment in your own personal life that you knew that you were meant to help others the way that you do today?
Yeah, well, for me, I started doing my own, inner work and personal spiritual development when I was about 19 years old. It was about 13 years ago. And it was always kind of just this thing that I did on my own. And maybe I talked about it a little bit, but, and I was teaching music. I was, a trombonist, and I was freelancing and playing, doing all kinds of different things. And I began teaching, and I would share a little bit with my students. But there was always this feeling like there was some more meaning. There was something else that was, that I wanted my life to mean more to me than I felt like it did, to be making more of an impact. And I just so happened upon a video from Mary Morrissey that really inspired me. And so I went out to a Dream Builder live event to see her speak. And it was just for my own personal development. And while I was there, there was this moment where I realized I want to do what she's doing. I mean, I want to be affecting and impacting people's lives in a deeper way. And the opportunity came up to be trained to be a life coach. I never considered that before. It was like, I remember I was sitting in the hotel lounge with my head in my hands, like trying to make this decision. It wasn't a convenient time for me to start doing something else and to change the whole direction of my life. I was teaching at a college. I was teaching at all these different schools. I had a really busy, full life as a freelance musician at that time, living in Vermont. But this, I was scared to make this big change, but I was willing in that moment to allow myself to let the part of me that really wanted to pursue something bigger to win over the part of me that was worried and not sure how it was all going to work out and wasn't ready. So I chose that, and that started me on this path, which has just been tremendously fulfilling and rewarding. I just, helping people enact change in their lives, musicians and some other folks as well, just, making a difference, claiming more of who they really want to be and how they really want to live, and finding more inner happiness and more success. It's just nothing more fulfilling than that to me.
You're right too. Like that part of your story where your head was in your hands, it's definitely the case that opportunity seldom comes on the fun and easy side of convenience.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. I know Adrian can relate to that. Many of our viewers, I'm sure, can relate to that too, saying like, wow, if this would have just happened 5 years ago, if this would have just happened, once I had 8 figures in the bank account or whatever they make up, right?
Yeah.
That is life. So who would you say is like the people that you end up working with the most? So
particularly millennials, or people in their 20s and their 30s, a lot of musicians, and I've worked with a range of all different types of people, but particularly millennials, musicians who have a desire to grow, to learn more, who are willing to take a step. Either they want to express themselves more fully, to have more purpose, more direction in their life, to feel like there's less struggle, to feel happier, to feel freer in themselves. Or people I like to think of who can be introverted and really want to put themselves out there, or that really want to take the next step in their life and have been waiting, but they know there's something more. They want to really activate their potential. I particularly people in those positions I've resonated with.
Especially, when I hear the introvert piece, a bell always goes on inside my head, because I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not.
Me too, originally.
Life skills, being in situations outside my comfort zone, I learned to become an ambivert, so I can do both. But at the end of the day, when it comes to recharging, I am by myself, and I get myself all pumped up.
Yeah.
And what I've learned though from having that journey, because I know how inside my head I can get. I know Adrian's seen it, that's for sure. Like, dude, did you just check out? Yeah, introvert. Sometimes I do that. But what I've learned is that introverts, like, they have big, 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 deep ideas. The world needs those ideas. When an introvert learns to get out there in society and put it out there, holy crap, there's a lot of power there, you know? And it just comes down to learning how to be more social.
Yeah, I think I agree. And, you know, it's funny that just the, you know, it's like we think extrovert, introvert, like it's like kind of black and white. Well, meanwhile, there's a spectrum to anything. At the end of the day, introvert's a word, extrovert is a word. And I you know, thought of I was very shy as a kid, and I was introverted in a number of ways. And I felt like I learned to become an extroverted introvert, what I called that. But then at the same time, it's, you know, I don't believe that introvert is like a core soul quality. It's just there's a I feel like it's more of a tendency. And so if someone says, oh, I'm an introvert, which means that, you know, I never, you know, I'm not really comfortable expressing myself, or I just don't like people, and of course there, you know, everyone has certain core qualities, but I think just kind of the labeling sometimes can hold us back. And there's just a lot of learned patterning behavior, and a lot of it has to do with a comfort level in ourself. I know for me, at least, when I became more comfortable putting myself out there and really expressing myself musically, personally, you know, as a coach, even doing things like doing more, you know, speaking and doing workshops and connecting with people, what made the difference for me was just how I learned, you know, how I felt about myself. And you know, changing my focus and recognition that I wasn't looking for the same, you know, level of validation or support from other people, or a fear of rejection. There can be a lot of things that tie into a person who is, you know, feels over introverted, like they want it, you know, they have something to share, but it feels like it's suppressed, you know, and there's you know, absolutely, you can learn to free yourself. And it doesn't mean you're not a person who values their time or likes to meditate or enjoys their own quiet time, which I think is a positive quality for extroverts as well. And then I think there's a whole another set of you know, things that can be for someone who's only comfortable being loud and being around people. There's another set of which I feel it comes down in a different way to the same thing. The relationship with oneself, and being comfortable with yourself, accepting yourself, loving yourself, being okay with space, being okay with sharing. Anyways, there's, you know, I look at it more of as a spectrum. And, you know, and if there's a discontent with, you know, some people are, you know, feel like they have really open expression, they feel really comfortable with themselves and their self-love. And in that case, so, you know, whatever you are, you can call it whatever word you want.
I love that. That's brilliant, Nate. One of my favorite, you know, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who of course studied with Mary Morrissey, I call him my soul mentor, because I never got to work with him personally the way I did Mary. But that's one of the things he talks about, that once we label ourselves, right? So I am an introvert, I am an extrovert, we literally limit ourselves. And so that's what I was hearing you saying, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that I'm limitless, and I agree. Like, I recharge my energy being alone for sure. Yet you put me in front of 1,000 people and it's on. You know,
Yeah.
there's no fear whatsoever in me. So I love that, because in reality, we are limitless beings. And once we label ourselves, we limit us, right? We just limit ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. You know, it's just you know, I feel like so much of the work that we do in every part of our life is just recognizing how we've been limiting ourselves, and not focusing on that, but realizing that's actually the only limitation that's occurring. It's just within our own mind, or the story that we're telling ourselves, the meaning we're giving to something, how we feel that something in the past, this happened, so that means that I have to be like this, or I can't do that, or this is part of my, this is my genetics or my family or the way that I am, or this circumstance that is in my life is happening to me. That means that it makes me feel like this. It makes me do this or not do this. And those are all, it's easy to believe in those limitations because we see them play out in our life. So we think it must be something else other than something from within me. But as we, learn and study and do the inner work, we realize that we have the power to change just about anything in our life. And it starts, let's say it's an inside out job, the transformation, change in
Absolutely.
general.
Yeah, I love it. So I know we've all touched on, different mentors. Specifically, what has having mentors in your life, like what difference has that made in your life versus when you see yourself? I don't know if there was a time in your life you did it alone and then you worked with mentors. Like, what was your experience with that, the difference they've made in your life?
A tremendous difference. When I began personal development, it started with, it wasn't a mentor that I was studying with in person, but I was studying the work of a man named Kenny Werner. He's a phenomenal jazz pianist and a kind of a teaching guru. And he wrote a book called Effortless Mastery. And he had these beautiful meditations. And that was really powerful for me, studying and learning from him, his method. And it set me on this journey of curiosity, which was a lot of just self-study and spiritual practice and reading books. But one of the first I had a powerful mentor who was a Buddhist monk, and I joined this Buddhist Sangha, and I learned a tremendous amount of things from him and from that group about meditation, about spirituality, just all kinds of life things. I was 21 or 22, so at a pretty young age, and having that form of mentorship was powerful. And then for me, the greatest amount of growth that has occurred for me since I began really having regular supported mentors, which has been since I began studying over the last couple of years, studying and becoming a coach. And the difference between learning and I think maybe it's, again, Bob Proctor articulates this, is, you think I'm learning all this stuff, but he's, so you're reading stuff, you're hearing stuff, that's just gathering information. You don't learn it until you actually live it, and there's no replacement for having someone who can really call you out and point out specifically to you what's going on in your life, and where is this showing up, or what is the reality of the way that you're living, the choices that you're making, what things are, it's easy to see the picture. It's not easy to see the picture when you're the one in the frame. So having someone else to point out what's going on and to kind of hold you accountable and helping you take steps outside of your comfort zone, there's no real replacement for that. And it's made a tremendous difference for me. The mentors that have come, obviously Mary Morrissey and the faculty of the Brave Thinking Institute, and also working with other coaches who have, been, even if we're studying the same things, someone to point out and say, hey, or, you said you were going to do that and you didn't do that. What's going on? What came up for you? Or, is that really I'm hearing this reason you're saying you're not doing something, but just reflecting what is that really? Because a lot of times we tell ourselves a story and it's believable, and it's, at the end of the day, it's an excuse because we're a little uncomfortable. And it's so important for us to get uncomfortable in order to change, because our next level of growth is always going to be outside our comfort zone, which is, means getting uncomfortable, and having someone to support you through that has made all the difference for me, I know.
And I definitely resonate with that in terms of mentorship. For me, I was blessed to have not one, but two mentors growing up. And it wasn't until I actually got into adolescence that I really started to realize the value of that, because I would talk to friends of mine and it's like, dude, don't you have people in your life to tell you this stuff? No, I don't. And so what happened is I took my experiences with that and it translated all the way through adulthood. I was managing stores And my favorite part of managing a store was training my staff. I would see people's light go on in their head, and I'd be like, yeah, like I made a difference today. And that would make me feel so good. So I became a mentor for other people at a young age. And then as that went on into coaching, it's just like, I want to keep doing this more, because it never left. It never left, and it's so needed. There's so much to be said about the value of a mentor. And in some ways it's a coach. In other ways, it's a parent or a sibling or a best friend, or even like a music teacher. If you get a good one, they'll motivate you, even your career, not just in the technicalities. Like there's part of it, like, yeah, if you want to be able to play this 30-second note pattern, like there's going to maybe be some blocks in the way that you're going to have to work through. So they can help you on that level. But get one that sees something inside of you that you don't see, and they can really change the trajectory of your life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's funny, as soon as you started talking, I was just realizing, of course, as a musician, it's very common practice, where you get a teacher if you really want to learn, particularly if you want to become a professional, or if you're going to study something seriously. Of course, there are some self-taught musicians, particularly in certain genres more than others. But just when you want to really master something, you study with someone who's done that, who's been there, who's gone on the journey. So you're not going trial and error and trying to figure out the good and bad habits on your own. And like you said, there's another level to that, whether it's a music teacher or anyone who's able to believe in you and to help move you along and see something in you. For me, thinking of just countless mentors and teachers as a musician since I was 5 years old. I've had mentors and teachers particularly in a musical capacity, but so many of them had such an impact on me just in my life. Learning to be more free, or to think outside the box, or to believe in myself, or to whatever it may be. It's tremendously important, and something musicians can relate to, or for anyone. Most people have had some degree of mentorship in some area of their life, or their professional life, at the very least, creative life, and having the awareness to all of a sudden think, well, what about just a mentor full spectrum for my life, or for my well-being? Or it's so important. People hire personal trainers for their health. What's the value of that? You see people just make tremendous improvement in that area. So definitely, mentorship is, and the privilege of being a mentor, and helping others in whatever capacity. I remember I was a camp counselor. I think maybe that was one of my first mentorship positions for a number of years, and I love that. And you do have a profound effect on the people that you're working closely with, and it's an opportunity to be appreciated.
It is, for sure. And you can look to any skill that you've got that you may have gotten some training on and see the advancement. The interesting thing, with coaching is that it's invisible, right? It's not like, for example, you have a sheet of music. You can tell whether you're getting it or whether you're not. You can throw a metronome and practice to a metronome. You can listen to the record, CD, MP3 file, whatever you have, and play to that. Am I getting it? Am I not getting it? Right? But when it comes to mindset, in the beginning, it can almost seem like, I don't know. Because when we talk about mindset, that's everything. That's what you go to bed with. That's what you wake up with. And the value of having somebody right there with you, so to speak, when you say, like, listen, this is what I've been thinking about lately, and it doesn't feel right to me, can't be understated. You see?
Yeah. I love that. And, it's funny, as musicians, there's certain things that are, it's visible progress, but we're using our other senses too. As a musician, what does something sound like? That's another form of progress. But also we're using our intuition and our senses as a musician all the time to, there's people, they just say, oh, there's a vibe, or it feels a certain way. How do you play with someone at the same time when your eyes are closed. That happens all the time. There's a feeling, there's an intangible aspect of that particularly musicians and creative people are tuned to when it comes through their work. And what I always think of our kind of measuring stick, so to speak, for our mindset is just how do we feel? And I love that. I know certainly I've heard Mary Morrissey articulate that our feeling is how we feel is the conscious awareness of what the vibration is that we're in. So if we feel really fulfilled and full of life and enthralled and uplifted, then we're in a high vibration. That's the vibrational frequency that we're going to receive inspired ideas, or we're going to be motivated to take action, where we're going to find solutions. We're going to be searching for possibilities instead of when we're feeling stressed or depressed or overwhelmed or just fearful, doubtful, skeptical. Then we don't feel good. Maybe there's a knot in your stomach, and it's like you have blinders on. It's like you can't see, but of course your vision isn't changing. It's a different kind of vision that we're talking about, because you're on a different vibrational frequency, and that there's not a whole lot of you don't have access to those same uplifting ideas and inspiration. And so going back to the Einstein thing, you can't find the solution on the level of the problem. The same kind of thinking that's creating the problem, where the problem exists, it's an entirely different vibration. It's the wrong frequency. You got to change your channel. So how do I change my vibration? So we have to change the mindset. What am I paying attention to? What am I thinking about? What am I focusing on? And it's tremendously powerful. Absolutely.
Yes, it is. I know I mentioned earlier too, music and vibration. And of course you mentioned Dream Builder Live. And one of the things Mary Morrissey does, and I think Dream Builder Live is amazing, is uses music, right, to lift the vibration of the room. And she calls them, energizers, right? And even me at home, being a woman, especially, I know it works for men too. Men, it's a little bit different, but for women, for anybody listening, the fastest way to lift your vibration is turn on music, particularly your favorite song, and dance, right? And then for men is to jump around, which can be dancing for men, right? Kind of
it depends.
Jumping around.
I'm a dancer, so for me, dancing is. But yeah, that's absolutely, and that's one of those. I think of like the little life hacks, or I call them happiness hacks. Moving your body, putting on inspirational music, or just uplifting music, and you can absolutely put on music that will. It will have a vibration that kind of soothes, but it's keeping you on the same kind of like despondent vibration. So we're not talking about that, but like moving your body to uplifting, energizing music, exercise. And then, there are other ones that aren't as active, but, just thinking of things you're grateful for. I think of that as happiness hack number one, gratitude, as it's that highest vibration of thought, appreciation, gratitude. So if, for, listeners, thinking, want to do something to feel better more often, think about things you're grateful for and why you're grateful for them, and say thank you. And it's just like it's a hack. Just instantaneously, you start. Literally, it looks like the world looks different to you. That's been my experience. I know that. And music and vibration, it's funny, is literally music, you think about the vibration, the sound waves, you can feel the vibration in a room where you can feel the bass, you can, it's a very I don't know if visceral is the right word, but it's a very clear way to think about vibration. And it's not, everything's vibrating. It's not just the sound waves. There's all kinds of waves, radio waves. We're constantly emitting an electromagnetic field that can be measured. That has, these things have been studied. So having those tools, like, what can I do? Listen to music, move my body, think of things I'm grateful for. All the uplifting things.
Yeah. And then dance and think what you're grateful for with music on, and sky's the limit.
Oh yeah, there you go. All three at once.
Absolutely. I think for me, that's been one of the most powerful things I've learned in general. I've learned so much over, I say that humbly, my 20 years of learning. I still have tons to learn, but that our brain cannot be resentful or angry and grateful at the same time. It's literally impossible. And, you know, I have all my clients practice gratitude. You know, we start our sessions with gratitude, and of course then things that you're proud of also. Because one of the things I've, you know, for all of us, right, is many of us are our worst critic. And until we really begin to love ourselves and look at things we're proud of, we are very often our worst critic. My client a couple of days ago, we were reviewing his week before, and he's sort of like, "Oh, Adrian, I did terrible this week." And I was like, "Okay." And so we go through his goals, and I was like, "But you reached all your goals. What are you talking about? What was so terrible?" And he's like, "Oh," and it just, you know, being that cheerleader for him, that mentor for him to point out the good he did also really helped him to all of a sudden see, wow, I am just being hard on myself. I'm being critical. And I know for me, that's been a big thing that my mentors have helped me with too. And one of the biggest gifts of being a mentor is being able to show people the good they have done also, because we have such that little ego voice. It's such an inner critic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have the same experience with my clients, and I have them all practice gratitude, and it, you know, it's not infrequent where someone will feel like they're, I didn't have the greatest week, or, everything's just kind of, oh, things are okay. And then meanwhile we check in, it's like, wait, you did all of these things. That's amazing. You have to celebrate that, or you don't have to, but I highly encourage it. And it's something that, I'm no exception to recognizing that inner critic. It's just tempting for that voice to come in, and ultimately it's a safety mechanism, because if you don't feel like you did that great, then maybe you won't move out, you won't move too far outside of your comfort zone to try to keep things, in the life that you've known. Our subconscious is always kind of trying to protect us by keeping us in the life that we've known, which is ultimately not what we really want. We want to keep growing. But I that's something I just think about on a daily basis, or just noticing, where is the inner critic coming in, and how can I celebrate in myself? I have it written down I illustrate affirmations. One of them just says, "I'm doing a great job." I'm doing a great job. It's okay. Love and accept myself right where I am. I'm doing a great job. What can I acknowledge? That's so important. And I know it makes a big difference for me and for my clients too.
What I would say too is, just going back to dancing around, we are like a furnace, and what you want to do really is get the heat up, because the heat, we call it like the engine of creativity, right? You want to be burning hot with ideas. You want to be energetic. So what happens a lot of times when we start to fall into depression, I heard a great definition of that the other day, and that's a depressed person is a person that's not in creation as a modality, as a mental modality. So the thing is, like, you wake up in the morning, maybe you start doing the mental things, but you're starting to already kind of slow down a little bit. You just came from slumber. Okay, so on the one hand, you're awake, you're ready. Okay, so you've rested. But now you want to start doing the dancing and be in a positive energy while you're dancing. It's not like, my favorite music might be metal, but when I want to put myself in a good, happy mood, I don't put on Marilyn Manson. I put on something that is got a nice beat to it, probably in a major key, something that, might have some positive lines in it, or whatever the case may be, but ultimately it's positive and it's got a fast enough pulse. And now I'm moving molecules, because at least for the time being, we're in the three-dimensional world. So there's something to be said about increasing your physical energy to align with your positive feeling. And so now you become a person of power. Oftentimes I'll talk about the balance between activity and rest and recovery. And I always seem to bring up the gym. When you're at the gym, what do? You raise your body temperature like crazy. You work those muscles. They become elastic and flexible. You work them, they break down, and then it's not until rest and recovery do brand new muscle strands become built. And so it is with our creative energy, that we get nice and warm. Get your body worked up so you're not falling asleep at the wheel. Get yourself excited and happy. Get your mind and your body in sync as well. one of the nice things about dancing or exercise. When you're over there doing push-ups and you're going 1, 2, 3, you're syncing everything together. Your biorhythms are all together. Now, when you go out to go conquer the world and get whatever you have set to do, you're going to feel good about it. You're going to be ready. You're going to be a little bit less in your head. Maybe the inner critic isn't quite so whiny, you know? And now you're just in creation. So I wanted to add that. It's something that I talk about an awful lot. To me, in some ways, I mean, it gets pretty deep, but it's very basic. Warm up, cool down. Warm up, cool down. Don't stay too much in rest and relaxation. Otherwise, you become complacent in your mind. You see?
Yeah, and that's an important point, that there's that balance of action and then allowing ourselves to integrate. I think of it sometimes, you know, you've just learned a whole bunch of stuff, you've just done a bunch of stuff. There's an integration period where you're letting yourself relax or taking the edge off. And I think in terms of the inner critic, there's just a constant, whether we're in relaxation or we're in action. It's an important time to just be aware of what's going on in the head. I remember the first time I discovered I had an inner critic. Most people are unaware that they have an inner critic going on inside their mind, and you know, it'll just kind of come and go. So I think that's an important element too, is just recognizing, wait a second, what thoughts am I thinking? That's not, you know, I'm resting now and it's okay. A lot of people, there's a guilt that comes with, or I feel like I should be doing more, when really they're doing a lot and they want to let themselves relax. Or if they've fallen into what we can call complacency, it's sometimes that very voice that's saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, or you're not doing enough, that actually prevents them from taking action because they feel worse and worse about themselves. Meanwhile, it's just an inner dialogue that's going on. And as soon as you recognize it, you can pause it. Or I like to imagine I have an office in the center of my mind, and I imagine going into the office and opening the door and then just seeing who's there. And I'll hear from, you know, I think of like, there's like the angry guy, or the mean guy who's yelling at you. This is like the inner critic. You didn't know that, and you're not good enough for that, or, you know, whatever. You're, you know, whatever. And I'll just, you know, there's that, or there's the victim, who's someone who's curled up in the corner, go, oh no, poor me, and this happened to me. And I think of primarily those two, and then the I'll think of that, like the tempter, or you know, the person who's like, oh well, you could just, you know, press snooze another couple times, or you don't have to get off the couch right now, kind of enticing you to stay in your comfort zone for whatever it may be. Or maybe you could, you know, take the day off, not when you need a day off, but when there's something important that you're going to do that's going to move you forward. So I think of going into that office, opening the door, and just, you know, as soon as I visualize that, I instantly am hearing clearer words that the inner critic is speaking. And then I'll just fire whoever it is. You're fired. I fire them, and I imagine them like throwing them out the window. And really the voice is silent after that. It's amazing. Just like, oh, so, you know, we can use visualizations like that to, at least that's been really effective for me. Personification and visualization of internal things or characters, so to speak, to actually you can actually create all kinds of change just by imagining it. Who knew? But we have all that power within us. It's all made up anyway.
I love that. That's a great one. It reminds me of Einstein, right? Imagination is more important than knowledge. And Absolutely. It just shows the power of our brains. One thing I was taught too by one of my mentors that works for everyone, but I find it, especially women for some reason, is ask ourselves, would I allow somebody to speak to my best friend that way?
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't, right? We'd be like, excuse me, don't speak to him that way, right? But here we are speaking to ourselves that way. But I love that. I'm going to use that. That's
a good one too, Adrian. Like both of you, you know, both said things that I had never heard before. So that was pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Nate, thank you so much for the work that you do in the world and just who you are and the energy that you bring. So I know there's going to be people listening who would love to reach out to you. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
So the best way to reach me personally is to send me an email. It's Coach Nate Reit at Gmail. And my last name's Reit. So Coach NATE REIT at gmail.com. It's the easiest way to reach me personally. And all on social media, Coach Nate Reit is my Facebook. It's my Instagram. So you can go to my Facebook page. I post videos and there's, content and more about me there. So that's my encouragement. If you want to learn more, go to Coach Nate Reit on Facebook, Instagram, or send me, if you feel free to reach out, send me an email, coachnatereit at gmail.com. I love to connect with you guys. And thank you guys, Kane and Adrian, thank you guys for having me on your show. And, a huge wave of love and appreciation for the work that you guys are doing as well in the world, and for, this podcast, and for the content and all the different perspectives that you're bringing to people. It's so, it's so amazing. We learn so much from each other and from hearing different people's approaches and how they visualize something, how, different metaphors and different, different aspects of life. So I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate being here with you.
And that too goes for anybody that's living on purpose. You get the benefit of surrounding yourself more with people in alignment to the very thing that you want to do or talk about or bring into the world. And so thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wisdom with us and your perspectives and teaching us all a new way to deal with things. Very cool. Well, as usual, we want to see if Miss Adrian can say the name of this podcast. The little challenge we have at the end. We all have something that trips us up, trivial or advanced, right? And so this is Adrian's opportunity to laugh at herself. She's good at that.
Yes, it's important to laugh at ourselves, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see if I can do it today. So coast to coach. Yay!
You did it.
Slowed down. It was very intentional today.
I have a friend that once said, and this is great if you're into music, sports, if you're trying to speak, whatever skill, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Take that to the bank. All right, everybody. I hope y'all have a great week, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you.